rig life. Got a call for a drunk in somebody's trunk. Rig life, rig life, rig life, rig life. Got a call to the mall, dead guy in the stall. Rig life, rig life, rig life, a rig life. Got a call for a break and it turned out to be fake. Rig life, rig life, a rig life, a rig life. Got to drive really fast and it was a blast. Rig life, rig life, rig life, rig life. Showed up to the scene and they asked us to stop singing this damn song. Rig life, rig life. Hey everybody, this is Rig Life coming at you from Toronto, Ontario. It's Karen and Erica. Hey Karen.
Hey Erica, how are you today?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I think I'm still okay from the last second.
Thank God for that, because we just had to re-record Rig Life, and clearly you can all hear how amazing it is.
You might notice some subtle differences. It maybe won't make your teeth hurt as much when you listen this time.
I mean, it still might. I mean, it depends how hard you brushed this morning.
Oh, wait.
It's in the...
I just lost a tooth.
Oh, it's because of our amazing song. Better get that replaced before the Oscars.
Next time I'll be like, Rig Life.
Rig Life.
With my flappy chaps.
Somebody... Ooh. Well, this turned in a whole different direction.
Okay.
Well, guys, today we're going to be a little serious. How do you feel about this, Karen?
No, I think it's important that we talk about some serious stuff.
I think it is too, and it's nothing to do. Well, actually, it is. It does both affect Karen and I together. So we're going to actually talk to you guys today about post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it before, I know, on numerous occasions that I have PTSD.
And I didn't cause it, so just going to put that out there.
We'll talk later.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We want to talk about it because it's, well, first of all, I think...
It's very real.
Here's the thing. It's being used a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it's mostly appropriate how it's being used.
Absolutely.
It's like anything that's being recognized, because of the way the world is, we're all connected by the interwebs. So it's talked about more. More people coming out are talking about it. There's been more studies done. Like life is difficult.
Every aspect of life is difficult. You can lose a loved one. Losing a loved one, people don't really realize how much that affects you. It doesn't even necessarily matter. You know, you lose a grandparent, old age, let's say. You could lose, a mother, a father. Mm-hmm. It's all traumatic. It's
and for some people, they go through the regular stages of grief. So. And if you can go through the regular stages of grief and come out on the other side of it, it's not considered PTSD.
Right.
It's grieving, it's loss, it's sadness, depression, those types of things. When it becomes debilitating, when you can't focus on your life, and we're going to go through the symptoms, and we'll just wait a second before doing that, but basically the difference between it is that when you get a load of these symptoms and they debilitate you, they take over your life and you can't function normally, then we're looking at a PTSD diagnosis.
Yeah, and those 5 stages, I'm going to let you guys know. So the 5 stages of grief they have here is denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I think too, if you can get yourself to acceptance, I mean, you can always say, like, I, for example, lost both parents within the span of 18 months. So that was really rough. Mm-hmm. My mom died unexpectedly, and my father suffered for a couple years. So for me, I think I dealt with, I feel like I've dealt with their deaths, but not properly. Mm-hmm. It was kind of okay, this happened, I got to move on. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, whereas my sisters in a different way, it affected them a lot more right off the bat. I find now, My mom was 8 years ago now. My dad was 5 years ago now, or 6 years ago now. Now it's catching up to me. I think about them a little bit more and I'm like, wait a minute, why am I, it should be getting easier. Well, you can't, excuse me, put a timeline on grief.
You can't. I mean, we can say that maybe we again, it's when we are able to process all the way through it, and it gets in the way. So I think that we can't put necessarily a timeline on it, but there's a point where it's stopping us from living.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And we're supposed to forget and all this. No, that just doesn't stop. You're going to feel sad. You're going to miss them, but there's a way of rerouting this thinking process. The thing with PTSD too is that it's usually from a very sudden traumatic event, or a series of sudden traumatic events, or just being constantly just like peppered with this stuff. Yep. Think of soldiers.
Oh God.
Every day they're experiencing, like in war. It may not be every day. It could be. It doesn't matter. However, their exposure is to it. They're dealing with some of the worst shit you can ever see.
Crazy. And then here on our home turf, police officers,
EMS,
firefighters, nurses, doctors, everybody, PSWs. Let's not leave anybody out, because emergency workers, you're there right when all of this is happening. The worst day of somebody's life. You bring that home, don't you think? Don't you?
Yeah, I think we bring it home, but it lives in our head. Yeah. So, I mean, our head is the first home. The second home is where we occupy our bodies, but generally we don't, there's nowhere to go with it. You can't debrief at work. No. You got to keep moving on. Another aspect of trauma is, say someone was in a horrible crash. Right. Someone was raped. Someone lost a family member to murder. Sudden death from a sudden illness, like childhood abuse. Yeah. These things are all that cause PTSD. And it's mental illness is still something people don't want to talk about.
And this day and age, 2019, you would think, I'm okay with talking about mental illness. I know you're okay with talking about mental illness. What do people have to do to get to a point where they're okay talking about that they're not okay?
There's still so much stigma even within the 911 community, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, we got to be tough. Yeah. And, but I don't think there's a lot of people that maybe feel that way exactly, but it's still part of the culture.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
When I finally left work, the day I left, I didn't know that I wasn't ever going to go back to work again. Yeah. And the support I got that day from the couple people there was incredible. And some friends that carried on. But there's a whole load of, you can't hack it. Yeah. Which is, everybody has, again, we'll talk about time limits. How many years can one take?
Well, I think it's a fuse. You can look at it as a fuse, right? Yeah. We don't know how long our fuse is. And I think once that fuse kind of fizzles out at the end is when we reach a point where it's kind of, a change has to be made. Mm-hmm. We have to kind of visit our own selves, sit down with our own selves and be like, okay, something's going on. I got to try and work towards fixing this, because you don't want to, there's a bunch of stuff we're looking up on CAMH.
Do you want to, and CAMH is the
Center for Addiction and Mental Health.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say Canadian
Addiction, Mental Health, whatever. I mean,
I messed that up. Okay, so Erica, do you want to go over some of why don't we just give the flat out definition?
Yeah, I can do that.
You want to read that?
Yeah. So post-traumatic stress disorder, which is PTSD, is a natural emotional response to frightening or dangerous experiences that involve actual or threaten serious harm to oneself or others. However, for some people, the thoughts or memories of these events seriously affect their lives long after any real danger has passed. These types of experiences are called traumatic.
Yes, and there is something that's called like small t trauma, large T trauma, and then complex PTSD, in which it's maybe not just work, it was childhood trauma, right, or domestic abuse and that kind of thing. But why don't we read through some of the some of the symptoms, signs and symptoms?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it says PTSD usually appears within 3 months of the event, but sometimes symptoms may not appear for years. Common symptoms include re-experiencing the traumatic event over and over, having recurring nightmares, experiencing unwanted, disturbing memories of the event, acting or feeling as if the event is happening again, feeling upset when reminded of the event, staying away from activities, places, or people that are reminders of the traumatic experience. You want to carry on, Erica?
Yeah, avoiding friends and family, losing interest in activities that used to be enjoyable, experiencing difficulty having loving feelings. You've lost that loving feeling. Oh, that love. Okay, sorry, I had to throw that in there. God, I can't take anything seriously.
Yeah, well, you are.
Okay, good. Being unable to feel pleasure, constantly worrying, having a hard time concentrating, getting angry easily, having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, fearing harm from others, experiencing sudden attacks of dizziness, fast heartbeat or shortness of breath, having fears of dying. I know all about the dizziness and the fast heartbeat and the shortness of breath.
I mean, I think I've gone through many, if not most of these things.
And it's scary. It's the scariest thing when it's happening. You literally think, I'm going to die.
Well, okay. So maybe I'm going to tell a little bit about myself right now.
Yeah.
So I suffered from pretty significant childhood abuse. But I was able to, I can never say this word, compartmentalize it. And put it in, tidy little boxes in my head. That's how I survived as a kid and then into my adulthood. So I go to school, I become a nurse, I'm working away, I'm thriving, I'm doing excellent. And then this was my first brush with it that I didn't realize was maybe the beginning of things.
You have a child that you're taking care of as well.
Yeah. Oh my God, my son's so perfect.
Cute.
He's the best.
I had to throw him in there.
Yeah, I had to. So the best way to describe it, I started to feel like I was walking on a raft in water, but on land. Every step I took, I felt like I was sinking.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was getting motion sickness. And so I thought, I think I have an inner ear disturbance, that kind of thing. And then my heart would race, all these things were happening. And I really thought that there was something seriously physically wrong with me. So I got a bunch of workups. Most things came back normal. I have some heart shit, but whatever.
She's got an iron heart, everybody. That's what it is.
right beside my iron lung.
Right beside her iron lung.
Yeah. And so I was like, I had the workup, but I didn't get any treatment. The doctor put me on an antidepressant and the symptoms calmed down a bit. And I just carried on with life.
Nothing's dealt with. You were given a mask.
Yeah, and it wasn't attributed to anything.
No.
It wasn't like, oh, well, like some bad shit happened and,
Yeah.
So then I carry on. I'm working in the ER. Things are just, life's carrying on. All the crazy stuff that you see there and all the other stuff in my head that's, let's just say the box is starting to deteriorate a little bit. I think of them as...
The tape's coming loose.
Yeah, like the cardboard box is starting to get a little moldy and starting to fall apart a bit. And
maybe a cat peed on it or something.
Oh, God. Jeez.
Went a little too far there.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I think, no, okay, I'm going to leave that alone. And so then, it was one experiencing traumas at work. And then there was one last horrific case that involved the murder of an entire family. Well, except for one child. And
you can't imagine that, even as an outsider. Mm-hmm. You can't imagine that. I can imagine experiencing that as a paramedic, but as a nurse, they came right to you, and
but you guys were on the scene,
right? But it's kind of like as a paramedic, you hand off so quickly, you get cleaned up and you go to your next call. It's not like you're there.
But I think it's the same though, because you don't get to debrief. You go there, you pick them up, you drop them off. What happened? What's going on? And then you see all this horror as well. I think it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
It is, yeah.
So this case was it was so bad. I believe I talked about it in maybe my last Hardcore ER. And so it was close to Christmas, and that night was the Christmas party at work. And my son was in a play, and it was closing night. So I'm like, I was done at 7 p.m. So I thought, plenty of time to get changed and go see him. That was my plans earlier in the day.
Right, yeah.
And maybe after I drop him back off at home, I'm going to go maybe for an hour or two to the Christmas party, because I was going on to nights the next night.
Right.
So
it's a lot.
Yeah, you can sleep the next day sort of thing, right? And this case was it was so bad, and one of the worst ever. I didn't get to leave there till 9. And I always take off my scrubs and my shoes or clogs I was wearing, all of it, because, you don't want to bring home gross stuff, right?
She puts clothes on, though. Like, once she takes her when she takes her scrubs off, she puts clothes on. Exactly. I just wanted to get that in there.
But I was covered in some, lots of stuff. Let's just put it this way. And I didn't care. I didn't even think. I threw on a big, long jacket, like a trench coat. Not a trench coat, but, it was like a winter jacket, like a pea coat. And I flew out the door, went to my son's school, and I'm sitting watching his play, and I'm wearing the scrubs I was wearing, which is like horror in itself. It's so unlike me. And I'm crying watching his play. And I'm like, gee, what the hell am I going to do? Like, I can't walk up and be like, I'm so proud. Oh, son. So, yeah.
You were so good playing.
Whatever.
Whoever. Yeah. Number 2. The Bush.
Bush 2.
Bush 2.
Yeah. And so there was that. Then I'm like wired. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make an appearance at the Christmas party. I go there, and then whoosh, everybody's like, what happened? We heard. And I'm like, okay, can't do this.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to go home. Went home, cleaned my house all night like a maniac. And then all into the next day, did not sleep. Went to work, was working in acute care. So heart attacks and all the
fun stuff.
All the fun acute care, like sick people. And I'm one of my patients. They're getting worse with their heart condition. So I'm sitting and I'm talking to the cardiologist, taking notes, and I look down and there's like water dripping on the paper and smudging the ink, and I'm like, what? I look up, honestly, I'm like, what? The ceiling
leak up in here?
Yeah, and I'm like, holy shit! It's me. I'm crying. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
And I asked one of my coworkers, like, can you please take this over? I went to the charge nurse and I'm like, I gotta go home. And like, you just don't leave mid-shift, night shift, or any shift.
Yeah.
But she saw me, and I guess she knew that I was involved in that. And I was so ashamed to like go to her and say, I have to leave.
To admit that you need to take time out for yourself.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I was like so ashamed of that. And finally, this nurse was also part of the union, the nurses union. And she gave me the most massive hug ever. And she said, I got you covered. And, I'll take care of paperwork and all that kind of stuff. And you know what? That was my last day at work.
And you know what, though? The good part is you recognized. There we go.
I didn't know it was going to be my last day at work, though. I thought, okay, I'm going to go home. I just need sleep.
Yeah.
I'll be fine.
I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm stressed out.
Yeah.
I'm clearly emotional, and I don't know why. I'm going to sleep it off.
A week goes by, and I'm like, I'm shaking.
Yep.
I'm not coping. I am just, what is going on? And so, anyway, this is my intro into PTSD.
Yeah.
This is when it all came to a head. So it wasn't just all of this. All of my childhood stuff came up, and I'm like, what? Why am I being bitch slapped by the universe right now?
Yeah.
But you can only hold so much in.
Yep. And then it will all come out eventually. And that's the thing. I mean, I think that's why it's so important to talk about, you go home, friend, husband, wife, whoever, mom, dad, vent a little. I think venting is important.
Yeah, I think because I know where my thoughts went. I know that I went to really dark, ugly places. I wasn't starting to have flashbacks. That came later. But I couldn't sleep.
No.
I was isolating myself. I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to like be by myself, be left alone.
So some risk factors for PTSD include experiencing dangerous events and trauma in the past, having a history of mental health or substance use problems, feeling helplessness or extreme fear, having a small support system after the traumatic event, feeling guilt, shame, or responsibility for the event or its outcome, and experiencing additional stress after the event. Example, loss of a loved one, pain and injury, loss of a job or home.
Yep. Yeah. Like the protective factors that may reduce the risk of PTSD include having a support system from other people, like a larger support system, friends and family, participating in support group after the traumatic event, feeling confident about one's own actions regarding the event, having a coping strategy or way of getting through the traumatic event, and being able to act and respond effectively despite feeling fear. So, I mean, I kind of look at that and say, doesn't that come after treatment?
You would honestly think so. I mean, and this is the thing. I think
some people are blessed with the ability to do that, but I mean,
not all of us.
Feeling confident about one's own actions, having a coping strategy. How do you have a coping strategy for? Okay. Let's just think about it, especially in our profession. There is no you don't debrief. You don't go, okay, let's take an hour to talk about what we just experienced and move on.
See, I think the biggest thing is if you look at you and I, very similar people, how do we react when something's uncomfortable? Humor. We default to laughing and for some people that can be uncomfortable. Yeah. Especially if you're in a funeral and, everybody's crying and upset and you're cracking jokes. Yeah. It's just the way of dealing with things. And you become so accustomed to it, I used to have really good partners. So, after any call, we would talk about it. And I think that was something that really helped, I mean, if anything, PTSD from work, PTSD from something that happened to you, past, present, something that may happen to you. I mean, nothing is too small. And I think the most important thing is to get help, to talk about it. Karen, do you have anything?
Well, here's the thing. If we're going to really get into this and,
my sleeves are just pushed up, so I'm in.
So when I was isolating myself, I wasn't sleeping. I was a mess. I was a disaster. So, okay, let's have a beer before bed. Yeah. Okay, now I need two. I need something in the day. So yeah, I developed a drinking problem. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I don't have the shame that I did because I was medicating myself. Yeah. And, it got bad. And thankfully, because the person most important in my life at the time, my son, he was in his late teens. So thank God. I mean, it's never, ever okay for a kid to see or experiencing their parents struggling that badly. But I think he was old enough to start to understand. Yeah. Or I didn't tell him about cases or anything like that. But yeah, I do have the guilt that I still harbor from that. I wasn't I was a horrible maniac, but it was I was a mess.
We'll have him on the next show. Yeah, and, talk to him about.
Yeah, actually, he's very proud of me, which will make me cry. But and I had a couple friends that were absolutely amazing. That weren't just work friends; they were my best friends. And they said, you know what, you gotta do something about this. So January 1st, 2012, I went to rehab. I spent 34 days in rehab. No, sorry. I went to detox for 10 days. Then 34 days in rehab. And from there, I went to a place in Guelph. So Guelph is about an hour and a half.
Yeah, about an hour and a half from here.
From Toronto. Yep. And it has one of the only PTSD programs in Canada. At least at the time, there was only one other place that you could go strictly to get help for PTSD. Right. And it's considered one of the best in North America. And people come in from all over the place to go there. So it was an 8-week intensive, you live there program, and you're with lots of exposure, but the support is unbelievable. So I walk in there and I'm terrified. And who's in there? Well, first of all, people between the ages of 35 and 55, because you hit a breaking point. Yeah. I mean, there were some younger people and older people, but who were in there? Okay, let's just say most of us were the military, EMS, nurses, doctors, people that there was a few people that worked in mines.
Oh,
because police, people that have experienced severe childhood trauma. But a lot of us were the 911 people.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing was, so I'm there and I'm like, oh my God, this is horrible. But it wasn't really. I look back and I was like greeted warmly by everybody. And your first session when you talk about stuff, you go, oh my God, it's not just me.
Yeah,
I am not insane.
Yeah, I'm not crazy.
Like you're looking at someone going, you too?
Yeah.
And then that I think is when the healing process starts and you don't feel so alone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What was your thought the day you left, the day you walked out?
I felt like I was a bit scared because you really are like 8 weeks. You are so comfortable and so safe when you're there.
Yeah.
And you're ready to go home. But I was afraid. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, now I got to cope with the real world. But I was given so many tools to work with that I felt beside a bit scared. I felt really confident and I felt really proud of myself. And I felt that I could identify what my triggers were. So to this day, I still have triggers, but I can go, oh, okay, that's what it is. It always goes away and I'll be fine. And I know how to put myself in a safe place. And it's a lot less than it used to be. But by the time I was going there too, I was having audio and visual, like I was having flashbacks and audio like hallucinations, even though I knew that they weren't real.
Still, it's scary because you have no control.
A trigger I still get, and it happens to me, is hearing babies cry.
Yeah.
I worked at a children's hospital, so like Merge, and I'll hear babies cry like from behind me or from a closet or in a hallway, and most of the time there isn't a baby there.
Oh, I would hope so.
So yeah, I mean, and so that's my trigger still, but I can go, that's not happening.
Right.
And even though it will shake me up, and then I'll go into I'll be in different places, I'll feel overwhelmed. But then, so like I said, I can go, oh, and I can shut it down quickly. Shut it down is not like closing the door of it, not thinking about it. It's like, no, I can stop this runaway train of emotions and fear. I can shut down that amygdala and that hippocampus.
What'd you call me?
Anyway, so that's kind of my story, and I've always been very empathetic towards people. As much as, we joke and stuff, I know you have the biggest fucking heart I've ever met. And we have so much empathy and care for people, but yeah, humor has gone a long way.
Yeah. And I think it's saved us a couple times,
So there's something I want to talk about right now. There's never a great place to put an ad. At least I find it hard to. But I am very grateful for the sponsorship from BetterHelp, because it does allow me to cover some of the costs of this podcast that I put out to you guys. BetterHelp is a service that I am proud to endorse. As we're just talking here, I have PTSD, and for many years and early on, I didn't know where to turn. Back in the day, there wasn't a service like this, and I'm pretty sure that it's one I would have used. You can talk to a licensed professional counselor in the safety of your own home, privately, confidentially, and secured online. You can talk to your counselor on a face-to-face video session, on the phone, text, or chat. They have specialized counselors in depression, anxiety, relationships, grief, self-esteem, family conflict, LGBT matters, and many others. Everything is confidential. There are 3,000 licensed therapists in the U.S. and available worldwide, and financial aid is available for those who qualify. STAT listeners get 10% off your first month with discount code STAT. So just go to betterhelp.com/stat. Let's get back to the show. But what about you? What's going on with you? If you don't mind talking about it.
So it's actually recently, I've been having some, I'm going to say, extreme anxiety. So I've been, waking up early in the morning, it's not an anxiety attack. It's just all of a sudden like,
mm-hmm.
okay, I know where I am. I'm in my bed. Everything's fine. But trying to go back to sleep, I can't. Little things, I always automatically go to, well, what's happening? I'm dizzy. I have pressure in my head, and, lucky enough, I went back to my old doctor. She is incredible. She has, talked me through a lot of these things. And, it's kind of like, you deal with things the way that you think people want you to deal with them.
Yep.
And you don't deal with them the way that you need to deal with them. And I think everybody needs to understand that it's okay to ask for help sometimes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you guys want to see what we've been reading from, go to camh.ca. So camh.ca. It's a great website. It's got a lot of links and additional resources.
Now, this is a Canadian site, but I'm sure that, you can start there. Oftentimes there's links to different countries. And,
right.
But I think that it's understood that it's pretty much across the board what symptoms and...
Like you can move to Canada too. That's cool as well.
Yeah,
you can. A pretty cool country. So there's that.
Yep.
So yeah, I think I hope... PTSD, we could talk about forever. But I think...
Well, you're getting away from you.
Me.
Yes. So do you think that... I'm not letting you off the hook that easy, unless you don't want to.
No, go ahead.
Then you'll hear a silent... Are you able to identify triggers right now? Like, is it...
No.
Is it... Okay, you just know... Is it possible you're at the beginning of starting to understand things that are going on?
It's funny. I think I've been thinking about my parent. I had a great childhood. I can't complain. My childhood was fantastic.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah, I had fantastic parents. I lost my mom when I was 31, and I lost my dad when I was 33. So, did I feel like I was too young to lose my parents? Absolutely. But I was, I did a lot for them. Right up until I was there, basically when they died. Now, I did miss my mom's death. I was 20 minutes late. Mm-hmm. My two sisters were there. So I think I still kick myself in the ass for that. And as for my dad suffered a lot. He was diabetic. He lost both legs. Yeah, so he had a lot going on, heart attack, stroke. But here's the thing. My dad saw the humor in all of it. In the beginning, he didn't. In the beginning, my dad asked us, when he was in the hospital after losing his first leg, he said, and talk about PTSD, he said, I want you to shoot me. I want you to kill me. I want you to go find a gun, and I want you to kill me.
And this is when he was not coping.
He was not coping.
How terrifying was that? He just lost his leg.
It was scary. Your parents asking you to, kill them. And when my dad was serious, you knew he was serious. Mm-hmm. So I think that in itself kind of made me put everything on the back burner, because I knew I had to be that strong person for him.
Yeah.
And, especially my mom. And I think too, my mom had my sisters, all the time. They were very similar. And I was my dad's confidant, I was his, I went fishing with him. I did all the things that, mm-hmm. with my dad. So I think losing him so close to losing my mom was it had a huge impact in my life, and I didn't realize that until so many years later. And I think now I'm thinking about them a lot more. I'm shedding more tears over them, and I think too, I was to the point where okay, I can't deal with this alone. I have to go see somebody. So, seeing somebody, to be honest, I was kind of embarrassed. Even me, I was I'm strong. I don't want to go see anybody.
It's common.
It's so common. And now I'm why didn't I do this before?
Yeah.
What the hell is wrong with me? So I think everything now, the care of my family doctor, the care of a therapist, you really undress things that you never thought were anything. They weren't even a memory.
Yeah.
things that you have no idea how they got there, you know? And I think that is something that a lot more people need to ask for help. There's no reason.
What I think is it's interesting between you and I is that we're at different stages of healing. I've been on this path of healing for quite a while. I mean, 2020. So we're looking at 8 years. I haven't touched anything. And you know what? I mean, I'm talking about like booze. I mean, but the thing is, it was such a medication to me that it's not anything I think of.
Well, it helps you forget.
But it's nothing that I even want to even consider.
Yeah.
But again, like, so I'm very, I'm in a really great place because I've gone through this journey and there's some things I just had to come to grips with that will never go away because there is brain damage involved.
Yeah.
But that's okay because I know I get it now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't interfere with my life really much at all. You are sort of at the beginning.
I'm knocking on the door.
Yeah. But I'm so incredibly proud of you, Erica, because this is a tough journey and a place to start.
Yeah.
And you're fucking doing it.
I'm doing it.
I got your back the whole way. You know
Thank
that.
you.
Yes.
I know you do.
But you're doing it. And that's the huge step of like carrying on, recognizing it, and then jumping in and doing it.
Yeah.
And some people have a big space in between the two.
Oh God. Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I just want to touch on something that's the science and biology of PTSD. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but for me, having a science brain, I didn't believe in PTSD, as stupid as it sounds.
No, it's not stupid.
But not even in others, in myself. I'm like, it's not possible for me to have this because I need biological, scientific proof that I have this. When I went through this program and they gave me that proof, I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This is beyond for real. I saw MRIs, I saw CT scans where there are major changes in different structures in the brain. And one of the beautiful things is neuroplasticity. And I love talking about that in the brain is that we are able to redirect our pathways of thinking. And that's, I think, I'm a miracle because my brain is plastic.
Yeah. That'll be a new song.
Yeah. Right? So I mean, with a lot of hard work and a lot of support, I've been able to reroute those ways of thinking. So, just quickly touching on a few things here. So you can look at it as a psychological injury. Right. Rather than say a mental illness. And when they've done neuroanatomical.
Sound it out, Karen.
Neuroanatomy studies.
That sounds so much better.
They have seen changes in the amygdala and the hippocampus, showing that there are that these are caused by trauma. So let's just talk quickly about what that is. So the hippocampus, it's just like a cool.
It's not a hippo.
Yeah,
I wish it was, but it's not. Unfortunately,
it's really, really cool word. So under normal conditions, when your memory is built or retrieved, the hippocampus blends together all the elements of memory from sensory areas. So short-term memories can be stored in the hippocampus, but when they're no longer required, they are kind of put out of our heads, so to speak, and they are changed and made into more long-term memories. So that's a cool thing about the hippocampus and the brain is that, boom, it's a short-term memory, and then it's translated into a long-term memory. Yeah. It's moved on. So, the hippocampus tends to reduce in volumes with PTSD. So, the recording of new memories and the retrieval of older memories respond to specific environmental stimuli. It becomes distorted.
Right.
So when we're drawing on longer memories and and how we process short-term memory is all screwed up.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we're pulling something out of somewhere. So you can imagine you're watching a movie and it's going along and bam, you're getting a flash of something really, really bad. And you're like, how does that fit into this movie right now?
That doesn't make sense. I'm watching Disney.
Yeah. And I can remember the first 15 minutes. Yeah. The first 15 minutes of this movie to begin with. So to sum it up, the hippocampus is also responsible for distinguishing between past and present memories. And so those with PTSD can lose the ability to discriminate between past and present experiences, resulting in flashbacks. So there you have your hippocampus is affected. And then you have your prefrontal cortex, so the front of your brain. And we know that this part of our brain affects our emotions and our behaviors. So an effect on the prefrontal cortex, it regulates, like I said, negative emotions. So we, positive, negative, but let's say negative emotions such as fear.
Right.
So due to this region shrinking in those with PTSD, the ability to regulate these emotions is reduced, causing fear, anxiety, extreme stress responses, even when faced with things that are not connected or even remotely connected to the original trauma.
And that's a scary thing. I mean,
well, perfect example for me would be like I get overwhelmed when I'm in a really busy mall or grocery store.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for me to be afraid of being in there.
No, but it's a thing. And, I think you can chalk it up to a lot of things as well. You try to anyways. You take yourself out of the situation. You're like, okay, I feel better, but you're not. People, I think the biggest thing is people aren't dealing with these feelings properly. And, with doctors too, I mean, doctors are so busy these days. It's easy to prescribe antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication, antipsychotic. You're, again, like I said before, you're handing somebody a mask and you're not dealing with what is actually happening. And I think that is one thing that, even if it's just us doing this, trying to put it out there to whoever's listening, get the help. Make sure you keep talking. I can't say it enough. Stay open always with your communication. Talk to anybody who will listen, your therapist, doctor, whoever you choose to talk about.
Just reach out, because even if you're just opening up a tiny pinhole of a massive abscess, at least you've opened that up a little bit, and it can lead to
relief and healing. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that in Canada, and my understanding in the States, I could be wrong, but our mental health system is failing people all over the place. And I was in a fortunate position that I had great benefits and I was able to go to such an incredible place to get help.
Right.
And I've been surrounded by an amazing healthcare team because of those things. But not everybody gets that.
No.
And so I'm very fortunate that way. So one thing I do want to say is this is became a coping mechanism, and then a love of mine is audiobooks and podcasts. I mean, funny enough,
I wouldn't be able to tell
because that allowed me to leave the house.
Right.
And so I could go do my thing and I could listen to a book, and that, being told a story is soothing. At least it is for me.
Right.
I couldn't listen to music for the longest time because some triggers were some certain music or songs.
Right.
So throwing on a book being read to me or listening to a podcast, I could just boot around, get my groceries done, and now I just like it anyway. So now I just
there's
love
nothing wrong with it.
I love my audiobooks and my podcasts. So, but that's an example of where I had to continue to expose myself.
Right.
I couldn't just shut down on life, so I found a way to help me, just do that.
Of course.
But again, that was, a part of a journey that I had to take to get there. But everybody has different ways of coping, different lengths of time that's needed, different support systems. So don't ever don't get critical of yourself. Don't beat the hell out of yourself.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Listen, if you even have, any sort of, even an inkling, a quick thought in your mind that, you want to hurt yourself or you want to hurt others, get help. Go to the hospital, call 911. There is help out there. Maybe it's not the best right now, but I think a lot of people are working towards, trying to figure this whole thing out. And that's the most important thing. And don't stop talking. Again, do not stop talking about it.
Exactly. I never had suicidal thoughts.
No, me neither.
And thank God for that.
Yeah.
Or thank whoever's out there for that. I think I know.
Thank Barbara.
My main thing is my son, because there's no way I was leaving him.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that that's how everybody feels.
No, exactly.
But I feel fortunate that I didn't experience that. But some people do. And again, like, reach out. And even if it means dropping us a line, we can direct you with some links and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So let's get to the amygdala. So the amygdala. People that have experienced trauma, there's an increased activity in the amygdala region. So what does it do? Okay, so this part of the brain helps us process emotions, and it's also linked to fear responses. So it uses the hippocampus to ask questions from situations like, is this safe? Am I in a safe situation? Do I like this? Okay, and then when it comes to PTSD, it's like, do I need to start my stress response, trigger my hormones to fight or flight, right? So that's the thing. So it takes in the information from the hippocampus, and then it goes, okay, what do I do with this? It asks, and then it can react. So if you can imagine that, if your brain is hyperactive in that area, it'll not communicate properly and get misinformation from the hippocampus.
And kind of creating a distorted view of situations.
Exactly. So you're like, shit, I just heard a loud noise. I've heard a loud noise in the past. Do I need to be worried about this? A loud noise. Loud noise, loud noise. Oh, boom. Okay, shit, I gotta get the fuck out of here. This is not good. So if you think, so you've got a hyperactive amygdala, you've got a hippocampus that can't figure out how to, like, process memory. And you've got a frontal lobe that knows is disturbed when it comes to, it's screwed up when it comes to processing emotion, especially fear.
Yeah.
So these are very real things. So when I started to read about this, when I started to see images about this, I was like, okay, now I can accept.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That I'm not a wuss. I'm not a baby. I am not overreacting, that I do need help. And that was my trigger. Everybody, like I said, has a different thing. Last but not least, let's talk a little bit about the cortisol levels. We know about cortisol levels that go up with stress.
Do they ever?
Exactly.
Which can also create, like, physical symptoms. Physical symptoms are, let's say you're going into, an anxiety attack. You start to sweat. You're in a cold sweat. You get dizzy, tingling your hands and feet.
Yeah.
And you don't feel good.
Shortness of breath, racing heart.
All heart, and then it causes you to think you're having a heart attack.
Yeah, and then you're not thinking straight because you're not getting enough oxygen circulating, and that's it.
Yep.
I'm screwed.
I'm going to die right now.
So think about all of this. That is a lot biologically going on in your body. And for people that say PTSD is not real, you know what?
Fuck you.
On you.
Yeah.
I just made a fart noise with my mouth.
I know. But then I said, fuck you. And you were like, on you.
Yeah, but this is real and
happens every day. And unfortunately, the hardest part is we're losing so many lives to this, especially from first responders.
It's in the news all the time about suicides, murder suicides. It's lives lost from alcoholism and drug abuse. It's devastating because a lot of the people that are suffering from it have acquired this from trying to help.
Yeah.
But then we have a whole generation, or not, it's not even a generation, it goes back till the beginning of time, people that have suffered horrific family violence and abuse.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other let's not talk about it situation. So you've got within the 911 communities and first responders and military, let's not talk about it. And then there's family trauma, let's not talk about it. So that's the whole thing of let's not talk about it. Well,
and it's all sweeping everything under the rug too. And eventually your rug's not even going to be sitting on the floor. And
I'm having a hard time with that analogy, but
I want to sing the song from Aladdin, A Whole New World. when they're flying on the magic carpet. But we'll say that for another day.
There's so much crap on it. The carpet's sitting on the crap. It's not even touching the
sitting
floor
right on the crap.
Yeah, and well, I hope that this episode has resonated with some people.
Yeah, and opened your eyes a little bit, and know that you aren't alone. Even if you want to drop us a line, talk to us. I mean, myself or Karen, send us an email, send us whatever you need to do. Get it out, vent to us. We are here to listen. We are no judgment.
And we're not going to give you advice except for maybe help you find maybe a link or a place that you might check out.
Yep.
But first things first, family, 911, get yourself safe.
Yeah.
And if you are even just, if you feel like you want to just drop us a line, like Erica said, maybe we can just direct you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
But get yourself safe first and know that you're not alone. You got us two crazy bitches here that is as silly as we get. We're also as serious as a heart attack. And
Absolutely.
We're here to support each other.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's it for today.
That's it. Thanks, guys. I'm going to go cry now. God, Karen, I'm getting kind of hungry. We think we should whip up those. What are you making us for lunch?
Philly steak sandwiches.
All right. So, we're going to go eat our feelings.
We're going to go eat some sandwiches and
Sammy's.
And then we're going to record a placebo effect.
Placebo effect.
Oh, wait till you see what we got for you.
Oh, just wait.
Okay. Take it easy.
Take care.
Peace.
Bye.
Love.